All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, if you're able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening and thank you. At this time, we will open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Just remind everybody to please follow Board Policy 1230. State your name, your address, adhere to our 5-minute policy, and please refrain from naming any individuals by their first name and last name. All right, we will close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we will have one towards the end of the meeting. Now I will turn it over to Superintendent Schwartz.
And I'm going to cede my time to Mr. Giaquinto, who's got a couple of different things he's going to talk about, both electric buses and our SEP eligibility. So Drew, it's all yours.
Thank you. So we've been spending the last couple of weeks getting the submittal into the state for our eligibility on the CEP, community eligibility provision. We have to be at a 25% threshold of, I think it's free and reduced percent. So to the efforts of Bobby DeLong, Sue Zeglin, our consultant, been working feverishly for 2 weeks. As of today, we were 99% there, I think, as far as getting approved. So we're going to get approved. That's the good news. But when the numbers were run, 2 of our schools did not meet the 25%. And what that means is the district as a whole, you look at each school, and then you do an aggregate percent. And if you take all 6 of our schools, we're at 23.3%, so we're below the 25. If you take out Glenwarden and Glendale and add the other 4, we're over the 25%. So they will meet that eligibility for free breakfast and lunch probably December 1st. What we'll do is 2 things. One, as you know, last year we did 2 weeks a month of free breakfast and lunch district-wide. So we'll start minimum with that at Glendale and Glenwarden. I'm going to run this is all just happening as we speak. I'm going to run the numbers and see what it costs to make them free and the districts back for the rest of the school year. We also will refile in April and try to get them eligible too. So I'll have another update for you at our next board meeting, but we made a lot of progress. We're almost there. And again, I mean, Bobby and Sue Zeglin have spent 2 weeks working on this with the state. I can't ask for more than that. It's new. Even the state wasn't sure what the procedures were, but we've been working with them, and so we're almost there. That's the good news. So, are there any questions on that?
Great job.
It's great, thank you.
And I'll update you 2 weeks.
Thank you.
The other write-up I gave, and again, this happened quickly, is the electric bus, the EPA grants. As you know, a few weeks ago, we participated in round 2 through a consultant called Highbridge, which allowed us to participate in a grant that allows us to get 5 electric buses, or subsidized $250,000 per bus. Even though we don't qualify based on our poverty level, they're able to package us with districts that are eligible, that they can allow like a hybrid district to get in, and we did. So in December or January, we should find out if we get awarded the grant to purchase up to 5 buses in the chargers, that sort of thing. It doesn't bind you at that point, but I'm saying if we get awarded, that's, you know, okay. So you can see it's almost twice the cost for an EV. So if we can get these subsidies, that helps minimize the impact on the local taxpayer. We have to cross that bridge if we do get fortuitously awarded, and I think we will. How we're going to fund the local share, either through a bus prop, through a bus purchase reserve. I will bring that to you as we find out if we get the award. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. The other thing is we've applied for an infrastructure grant through National Grid, which looks like it'll fund 100% of the improvements needed to make our transportation facility able to accommodate the electric bus electrical grid. So we've applied for that. We're in the midst of doing that too. So hopefully we get a lot of federal government money to subsidize an endeavor that's mandated by 2030. So I wrote this up. It's, if there's any questions today or to Susan after, be glad to try to answer them.
What is the percentage that the state is requiring us to have as of now for 2030?
I think it's, the way it works is 27, every new purchase has to be an electric bus. And in 2030, you got to be all EV is what I think it is.
All right.
Drew, how many buses do we have now?
40.
Yeah, that was 40.
And question. In that time frame, how many of those 40 will be in need of replacement?
So we had to show them for these grants what buses we would be taking out to bringing in. So we typically replace 3 buses a year. So that's what, 6 years from now, that'd be about 20 buses. So half our fleet would be turning over during that time. So 10 would be okay, if we can afford it.
Thanks again for working on that.
Thanks. Thank you, Susan.
That's it. All right, moving on to our report updates. CASPA. So after the convention, I've been working with NISBA about trying to reinvent again. CASPA, there was 3 other local school districts that responded to me last year as well as this year so far. So the 4 of us are going to be planning a Zoom call, I don't know the date yet, with Zach from NISBA about trying to do something locally, since CASPA seems to be kind of hovering right now, so we decided maybe we would go in a different direction. So as of this afternoon, 2 of the 3 other school districts got back to me. I'm waiting on 1 more, and then I'll report back to everybody when we can get that up and running again. Kim, legislative?
There's no specific legislation, but I would be remiss in not mentioning the fact that just today, the Blue Ribbon Commission for the Board of Regents came out with their proposed recommendations for changes to the graduation rules. They're not coming outright saying we should not have Regents exams. In fact, they're saying they still are valid, but they're saying that they're not a sufficient assessment for graduation. They want to not have such specific exams for things like algebra and that sort of thing, but instead to be able to show competency in STEM topics as a whole with respect to science, tech, engineering, and math. They also recommended allowing students to graduate early if they have everything that they need in order to graduate, if they are able to show that competency. They've also focused, and I think I'm glad they are, on the disparity of career and tech courses through the state. It's really different from district to district from what I understand, and they want to see that more on an equal platform so every student has, the same opportunities. And I think that's great to do that for across the state because we're going to need all of that. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, how about PTA?
Sorry. We're going to have a meeting on Wednesday, and our very own Mr. Arquette is attending. We're very excited to hear about a potential for a science fair among, I think, all the elementary schools. Is that like a district-wide, which sounds very exciting.
Great, thank you. Audit committee, nothing new at this point.
Actually, thanks for asking, Al. Questar 3 is in this week doing the transportation audit.
Okay, beautiful. Wait for it.
Policy.
Policy.
I started going through the policies, comparing to see that we had all the required policies. And I kept finding all these policies that weren't there, that weren't in our set of policies. And during the year of what we did last year, I have read through every policy in our book. And I know these policies are there somewhere. However, our numbering is not aligning with NISBA's numbering on policies. So I pulled out the Erie BOCES, what they had done, the sample policy thing for us. And where our policies go from 0 to 9,999, their policy book goes from 1,000 to 8,999. No alignment whatsoever with what our policies are. So we're going to have to sit and go through each policy and go through all of our policy book and see if we can find where they are and what we have numbered these policies.
Because you're right, Pam, we have them all the requireds.
I know. And I just went, this just can't be right. 'Cause it's, you know, I know, and then I started recognizing ones that I knew that we had in there. And so by the time I was done, I realized that our numbers just aren't aligning. It's more of a luck if they happen to align than actual things. So I don't know what happened. I don't know why there's no alignment. But we're going to have to go through each one of them and find out where in our policy book these are, because I'm sure we have them somewhere.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, thank you and Kimmy in advance for doing all that for us.
Kim and I had a wonderful conversation on Saturday night.
Let's see, Board of Education goals, one is policy, so I already spoke about that one.
We're working on charges for the superintendent's committee, and then, which will be a long-term committee, and then a short-term working committee that will be almost like a subset, if you will. Once we have charges that TD is helping us, that I'm confident and comfortable about, we'll be bringing them forward for board approval.
Beautiful.
Or adoption, rather.
The last board goal, emails have been sent out. Communication has happened via emails today with Principal Cosmer, as well as I spoke to him tonight for a little while. The first step is planning a meeting at a time to sit and round table it or whiteboard. So hopefully by our next meeting, first meeting of the month, we'll be able to have a little bit more of an update of what we're working on. Last one is budget, Drew, which I'm sure we'll get right into as we move on to number 6 here. All right, good. All right. So if I can get a motion to accept the first fiscal projection for 23-24.
I'll move the Board of Education accept the first fiscal projection for 2023-2024 as submitted.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you. Drew, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So projecting about $3 million of surplus at this point, which is a little more aggressive than I usually present at this point. But we had 25% staff turnover this year. They've been replaced, but that creates savings where you don't spend it on health insurance and pension and so forth, and that creates a real savings. Also, all our grants were approved, and we still have the runoff of the ARPA grants. So the $3 million, I feel, is a conservative but realistic approach, underspending by 4% at this point. Hopefully, we'll get to the 5% or 5.5% that we typically get to the $4 million at the end of the year, so that we can reappropriate the fund balance to the usual level. The revenue is very conservative because state aid output reports will be coming out probably in a week or two. But the interest income is real. We're at 5%. A year ago at this time, we're at 0.5. That's 450 basis points more. I do not expect rates to go down till the spring. If not, they may even go up again. But I think the 5% is going to hold based on what the feds are saying, and that's real savings or real fortuitous bounce of the revenue. So we're in a good position. You don't want to get there by turnover, but it helped.
Any questions for Drew?
I had a few questions. You talked in your summary about how some of the funds were from CARES Act too. Do we have any estimates or projections on how long we can anticipate continuing to receive those funds to help?
ESSER and GEARS were done last year. We now have the ARPA, which is the final part of CARES Act 2, that expires 9/30/24.
Okay. So. All right. And then you had talked about pilots. Is that payment in lieu of taxes? And you said that was being affected because of Adirondack Beverage. Can you explain that a little bit?
They have in their pilot, an expansion, and they added on to their space, so we got additional pilot revenue based on that expansion.
And you also talked about the 80-some thousand from FEMA through, because of the pandemic. Are we done with getting what we're going to get for that as well?
Yes, when the pandemic started, we filed,
Right.
and 3 years later,
We finally get the money. Understood. And then I wanted to talk about a question about the revenue that mostly it's on page 19 of the computer, but page 13 of the revenue with the transportation section. Because I saw some overages there, and I was just, one of my main questions is this the overage to date, like as of October 24? And so we'll be continuing to have overage as time goes on?
good question. So the report you're looking at, the appropriation status, has a projected column that's showing those overages. That's projecting it out to June 30th.
Oh,
So-
okay, great.
So I'm always showing you where we're going to finish.
Oh, good, because I was like, oh,
And
wow.
those are real hits
Okay.
to transportation, yes.
Yeah, and when you talked about, because one of the biggest ones I noticed was the total contract transportation. It looks like you're projecting potentially almost 178,000. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on there?
Sure, we have some students going out to Massachusetts for program. We got kids going to programs in Troy, outside of Troy, that we don't have the in-house drivers to do it, so we have to bid it out. And that's $400, $500 a day when you go outside and bid these things. So,
Okay.
Yep.
But obviously, all those things are mandated.
all
so-
mandated programs.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Thank you. That
You're
was all I
welcome.
had.
Good questions.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else have any questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. I can get a motion for items 7, 8, and 9 to approve the revised cell phone list, Home Depot authorization list, and Lowe's authorization list, please.
I'll motion to approve the revised cell phone allowance, approve the revised Home Depot authorization user list, and the approved revised Lowe's authorization user list.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Both. Any questions? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. If we can get a motion for item number 10, request to establish a future engineers club at the senior high school.
I'll move the request to establish a future engineers club at the senior high school as submitted.
Thank you, Pam.
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily. Any questions, comments on this? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Bring in a motion for resolution number 11.
I'll motion to accept the appropriate gift and donation from the Lincoln School PTA.
You can do that now this year. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Conversation, discussion on this one?
I just wanted to mention that at the last PTA council meeting, this came up because they had a great idea about, you guys were there, about for inside recess, and especially as we're coming up on winter, there's going to be a lot of inside recess. So they wanted to be able to donate these games and puzzles so the kids could have just as much fun, hopefully, as inside as they would outside on our playground equipment.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Can I get a motion for resolution number 12, please?
I'll motion to accept the report of the tax collector.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. Questions, conversations on this?
I had a question. Noticing that it was about 1.9 million in taxes from Glenville, and then we had an amount from Charlton, an amount from Amsterdam. Based on your experience, are those the normal type numbers we're seeing with respect to not being able to collect?
We've ranged in my 17 years from 93% to 96%. So I think we're in 95. So
Right.
it's right where we should be. And then we'll turn these over to the counties, and they'll pay us in the spring. They'll make us whole on this.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Before everybody leaves tonight, though, please see me now that we've just moved this. We'll have to sign it. All right, so just pop up here quick. Thank you. If we can get a resolution for item number 13, appointed district interim admin.
I'll move that we appoint the district interim administrator as submitted.
Thank you, Emily.
Second?
Thank you, Kim. Any questions, comments on this? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Get a motion for item number 14, please. The resolution to award the scoreboard contract for the senior high school.
I'll move that we award the scoreboard contract for the senior high school as submitted.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this one?
It's exciting.
Very exciting. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Motion for communications.
I'll move communications A through F, staffing 1 through 9, and placement of students with disabilities as submitted.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Here's-
Do we go off of, do we want to do 10 as well on that top
There you go.
page, item number 10? Or
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I
Right.
didn't see that. Make it 1 through 10, please.
That's right, thank you. Kim, a second. Good. Anyone have any questions, comments on this?
I just had one question. With some of these longer leaves of absences, and I hope everybody's okay, will that have an, I'm assuming we get subs to replace. Are we expecting too much of a change with respect to the budget on subs because of absences like this?
This is a fairly typical year, I would say. And actually, in some instances, although we can replace people, it might take us a little longer to do that. So we have found that we've been able to live within the sub budget, and the CARES and the ESSER money have helped us out.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Or abstained? So moved. Routine business we've covered. Other business? Congratulations to all the high school undergrads for the awards that were presented last week. Congratulations. Carnjet, Kim, would you like to give the group an update on conference and what you loved better? Yeah, I did that.
Sure.
Wings are good.
Wings are good? Well, you're in Buffalo.
Yeah, it was definitely different this year. It was very, classes were very right after each other, so it wasn't a lot of mingle time to mingle with other school boards like we've had in the past. We've had time to have lunch with them and mingle. But the first class that I went to that I really, really enjoyed was about a community center, partner center in the schools. So what that is most of them do them at the high school. So it's one room at the high school. It's a bigger room, and it's set up so that therapists can come in and work with families. So it can be open until 8 o'clock at night. Therapists can come and utilize that room to work with them. It's also for students who are uncomfortable maybe seeing a therapist at their own school can go there during the school day, or they can meet there. It's also for families to be able to come if they need WIC or if they need assistance in anything, they can come to this center. And it's set up almost, it's like a cool, fun room. So the chairs are not your typical chair where you're sitting in. It's not a hard chair. It might be a chair with a ball on it, or it might have a TV screen for them to be able to do different things. The couches are set differently, so it might be a U-shaped couch, and it might be a square couch, and then some papasans. So it's very warm, but it meets all the needs. So if somebody can't sit in a wooden chair, they prefer sitting in a bouncy chair. It kind of met all those needs, and it was funded by the community groups. So the service organizations were the ones who helped build it into the school district, and volunteers, but they worked very closely with all the counselors in the school district, the therapists in the school district, and the social workers. So they were the ones who kind of controlled all of that, but it was supported through the community organizations, which is a really cool program. Sing and I sat through another one that was redesigning classrooms. So that was a really cool one that we sat through, about making the classrooms not only accessible, ADA accessible, but also accessible for those who have mental health needs. So the rooms were not set up like your desk and then your chair. It was set up more like maybe funky different types of chairs that were either higher or lower, or maybe a bench that went around the room, just for different learning styles, because not everybody sits at a desk and can learn that way. And then different styles of welcoming into the buildings, getting rid of stairs into schools. And they talked about having, like, when you go to Target and you have those big balls, I think it's, maybe Shenandoah did this, or instead of the big balls, they have barriers so cars can't drive into the school for safety, but they no longer have stairs. It's just a flat surface to be able to walk into the building. Not only is it welcoming, but it's easier for ADA compliancy. So that was kind of cool that we kind of sat through that kind of stuff. And then we also went through one about food insecurity and mental health serving the communities. And I was happy to be able to say, my school district is really working on this. Drew has been working on making sure that every child is getting food, and every child can have a free lunch, because a lot of them are like, well, we can't do free lunch, we can't do this. And I was really proud that our school district was really looking at making sure that every child had the opportunity to eat. So, and I'm not gonna talk about buses that I sat through, because Singh really dove into the buses. So I'm gonna let him talk about all the stuff he learned about the buses. And you wanna talk about the gaming girls program? That was really cool that we sat through.
Yeah, it was kind of like Odyssey of the Mind we have here. This group they have is just for girls. They have, working with Minecraft, the game, and just showing that girls can do anything too. So it was all girls and oriented, showing you different ways how to make, like the STEM program. So kind of working off of that, and it was a good program. The girls were there from Buffalo School,
Yeah, it was
right?
like the Girls on the Run concept, but it was
Yes.
for for gaming and for STEM.
It was good. I enjoyed it. I think I have a packet here somewhere. Plus the buses, I talked to Drew about this, that bus sessions were pretty packed from every school district, talking about, obviously the cost, the liability of the buses, what's the life expectancy. It was really informational, or informative, so I enjoyed it.
And they talked about the chargers. That was the one thing that Singh was really hounding them all about, was bus chargers. What do we do if we get to a school that doesn't have one, and making sure they were universal. So he really
They were saying that
to
buses are charging going to be universal to all the schools, no matter where you go. Is that, well, we have kids that go to a 1 hour drive, sporting events, so we need to get back and get charged up. No, all be universal. Every bus will have the same capabilities as the next school district. So there'll be no difference. Nothing special about it, no adapters. Everything will be the same.
That's a good idea.
There's a cool thing too that they so some of the BOCES programs in our district start younger, so they don't start in high school. So the kids were there, and they were so well spoken, and they were able to talk about their programs. All the students that were there were able, and we had elementary kids there too.
Yeah.
And then, so I was talking to one BOCES group, and they were the cosmetology group, and they picked me out, obviously. And so they were talking to me, and these two sixth graders were like, come sit in my chair. And so they're telling me about the program, what they do all day long, and how this cosmetology thing works, and how they're gonna graduate, and they'll have their degrees, but it won't be just your basic degree, because they'll have things in style, they'll have things in color, and be able to do different things. And they ended up putting extensions in my hair. So I had glitter extensions. As they're talking to me, they're showing me exactly what they do. And they were so well spoken. Those school districts should be really proud of sending their students there, because every student I talked to was phenomenal.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other business?
Yes, I'd like to bring up something. Since we're 7 board members, in order to have a quorum, how many members do we have to have? 4?
4.
Okay. And in order to you have to have those 4 in order to vote on issues, or else you can't vote. So I have a lot of concern with the change in the schedules that happened this month. We originally were supposed to have these meetings on November 6th and November 20th, and then 2 days before the November 6th meeting, I find out on Parent Square which is sent out to everybody, that the meeting's been changed. And I know that there's a couple on the board that don't even have Parent Square, so they found out in other means, I guess. But I think that before that went out, there needed to be a discussion among the board members whether or not that change could even have happened in the first place. Now, I understand historically it's always been the 6th and 4th Monday of the month. We did change that last month because of the holiday weekend. And we've had these 2 dates of the 6th and the 20th have been on the calendar since July. And they've been advertised as such. And I don't know about anybody else, but I've got a lot of things going on in my life, so I have to schedule things appropriately. So I count on the calendar being as it is, or at least to have a discussion as to whether or not we're going to have enough people to vote on an issue. I'm glad to see everybody was able to make it tonight. But that may not have necessarily been the case. And to not have that discussion, it not only affects whether we can vote, but for people like me, I have to figure out time in which to prep for these meetings to begin with, because we are only getting the documentation the Friday before. So I have to figure out within that weekend, because I work on Mondays, when am I going to have time to review it? And I want to be diligent in what I'm reviewing because I'm doing votes, and I think voting matters. So because the times were changed, I had scheduled things for this past weekend. I'm scheduling things, as I'm sure many are, for Thanksgiving weekend, and now one of our dates is the Monday afterwards. So today, for example, I had to rush home from work to review everything in time. I feel like I didn't give it the breadth that it deserved because I was out of town out of state all weekend. So I don't understand why it wasn't brought up with us first, since the board members are the ones who have to be here for the meetings, to ask us first, hey, we think we made a mistake. Can we change is everybody able to do it? I mean, if even just to find out if 4 people could come, it's not about me necessarily. I was actually the most concerned. Are there 4 people that can do it, or else why not even we're not even going to have the meeting to begin with. So if I could understand a little bit like what happened, and if we can make sure that that doesn't happen again, that we at least talk to us first to let us know, I would appreciate it.
Want me?
Or certainly we can talk to people in advance. I think it is very important to the community, while I understand the board's concerns, but that we be consistent in the dates that we hold meetings. That's what everything we publish says, 2nd and 4th Mondays. But yes, certainly, Kim. I would have no problem doing that.
So I brought it up to Susan when her and I were talking about something else, that it was, why is it now the 1st and 3rd versus the 2nd and the 4th, since, I know I, as you do, plan my things on the 1st and 3rd, not necessarily the 2nd and 4th. So
Right.
I had a scheduling conflict. I thought that we would send an email out to make sure everybody knew, as I had explained to you before. So that's a learning lesson right there, that wasn't done, and next time we need to make sure to communicate. On that note, and chatting with Pam, it's a great idea just to make sure for the rest of the year that we're okay, because there's one, as Pam mentioned, there's one on a Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Yep.
So there's one that's scheduled for an odd day for a Tuesday. We always have the one on Wednesday anyway for the BOCES vote that comes up. So Tuesday, I don't remember having a Tuesday meeting before.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually had asked about November and October, and I was told it was because of holidays. So, obviously the Monday was October. So then I was thinking, okay, because they don't want to have it the Monday after Thanksgiving because so many people go away. So I had asked that question in the very beginning in July to find out why we had the dates we had. So again, it came as a huge surprise to me when I had planned other things. And again, I'm glad everybody was here. My biggest concern is that we have 4. So.
Anyone else, other business?
I've been sitting here and it's been bothering the heck out of me, and I've got to say it. It really bothers me that 4 schools will be getting free lunches and breakfasts, and the other 2 won't. And I don't know what the answer is, but we've always tried to make sure that all the schools have equal. They all have the same thing. And I think I have a real problem with 4 schools getting free lunches and breakfasts, and the other 2 not getting them. And I don't know if there's any way the district can afford to give it to the other 2 schools.
Well, that's what Drew's working on now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Drew
Yeah,
said
that's
tonight that 2 weeks a month was gonna get it, but I think,
I think Drew's main goal is he's going to look to see where he could find, so that they'll all be on the same page. That's why I kind of just sat back a little bit, just to see where Drew comes back with that to us with, was he able to find the funding for all?
But you know what, Pam, maybe Drew needs to hear that we're all very interested in that as well, so.
well, that's what I was
Very
gonna
interested.
say.
I'm glad
If the
you are.
board is interested in knowing that, then the board as a whole can give a directive to Susan and Drew to see whether or not there is possible in any way to give this to all 6 schools.
I like that.
Well, I can assure you that Drew and I and Rick are all committed to all 6 schools. And certainly, we are not the only district that is up against this. So I'm hoping that the state, who said in a gentle way that perhaps their instructions were not as clear as they could have been around what we were applying for. So I'm hoping by the time the dust settles that we will be there.
Anything else for other business? All right, thank you, everyone. At this time, we will open up the second hearing of privilege of the floor. And again, please just abide by Board Policy 1230. State your name, your address, our 5-minute rule, and please refrain from using anyone's name in your comments. All right, if not, we will close the second hearing and privilege of the floor. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you both. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Kids got. Isn't that cute?
I love it. It's so